From the growth of the offense with a lot of experienced guys this fall camp?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you see the implementation of plays and just the install and those things go a lot smoother. I think what you're able to do from being on schedule probably speeds up a little bit just because now you really worked through 3 cycles, really 4 cycles of spring practice, fall camp, and spring practice, and now back to fall, where just the verbiage is familiar. I think the people know the positions. They know, in general what those, what the plays are and what each position is being asked to do. So I think you just see probably a little bit of an ability to work in a better time frame.
I know fall camp last year, this time it's just like you're still trying to figure out which offensive linemen we're going to play which spots. Has it been a little better this fall camp, maybe knowing where guys are going to play and just letting them compete?
Yeah, I think we still try to do a great job of creating competitive environments, and there's a lot of guys I think that are pushing, and we've mixed the lineup around a little bit here and there, and but yes, I think going into the second year when you've had the guys in your program for the most part, you got a better idea of what's probably going to fit with what, so it's been a little bit easier in that sense of it.
Do you have an idea of who your top 5 guys are right now?
Yeah, I think we have a pretty good idea. Probably I would, in the top 8 guys that are, I think we're pushing and really competing for it. I don't think for us, we would name a starting 5, because I think we still have some big days ahead of us. But I think we're probably a lot more focused in on who and what than we were probably a year ago.
How do you try to utilize Sean Foster this season? Is
it
more about just kind of getting his feet wet?
Well, Sean's doing really well. I think, we really emphasized to him, that jump from a high school offensive lineman to having the opportunity to go play in college is difficult for a lot of reasons. Number one, of the amount of things that you see defensively, the kind of guys that you play against comparatively to what you typically play against in high school. And just you as an 18-year-old offensive lineman playing against some cases 22-year-old men playing defensive line in this conference, there's a lot. So we really challenged Sean to really have a great offseason and grow throughout the summer. And I've been very impressed with his work ethic and what he's been able to do. And I think Sean has pushed very, very hard because he really wants to play.
To go back to the implementation piece, how time consuming is that a year ago, just from the verbiage standpoint? How much time are you devoting to having to teach guys just what you're talking about exactly?
Yeah, it's it doesn't matter how long you've been in a program, it's still time consuming because college football is an interesting thing where you're only together really as a team for 6 months because there's always newcomers. So there's still a timely fashion where you have to make sure that you're giving everything enough time and detail. But just the words, the verbiage, it goes so much faster now that the first day you get here, people don't even know what position's what, and then you go into now being able to just, okay, yeah, we did that before, great, we can move on, and there's recall of what you've done in the past, so it's not square zero.
Where do you pick up that time the most? Is it on the field, or is it when you're watching film, or in the
well, I think the practice demands, they're always going to stay relatively the same. So you always have that window. I think where it really helps you is you're able to, you pick some of that time up in meeting rooms where maybe you're able to work on the finer details as a position coach and, hey, I'm not worried just about the installation of a play or a motion or whatever it may be. Now I actually have some time to okay, here's how we're actually going to interpret this route, or here's actually the finer points of what can happen to you based on the alignment and assignments of the defense.
What was the turning point for the line last season? Because I know early on there were some major struggles, but then by the end of the season it was a fully functioning, productive line.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an offensive line, I don't know if there's ever that aha moment where it just clicks, because I think it's one of those positions that whether you're a 10-year veteran in the NFL or you're a freshman in college, there's always so many things to work on, and there's so many different skills and techniques that you need to continue to keep sharp. So I don't know if there was a specific moment. I think we just saw growth throughout that group as time went, and if there's a willing to from the player standpoint, you're going to see growth at that position because it's one of those positions where experience is important, and in just age and strength and all those kind of things as you develop and grow. There's a lot of things that can happen on a given play if you play O-line.
What is? I'm sorry.
No problem.
What is having Jake Campbell's back, I guess, meant to the line? Just like you're talking about there with the experience he brings, and then for you, I guess, to get him to coach more earnestly. In that
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing with Jake is a tremendous leader, and Jake is a guy that he really demands the respect from the teammates, especially the offensive linemen, because Jake, when he walks in the door, it's the same exact guy literally every day. Jake is, if you looked at his notebook in a meeting room, he writes every single thing down you could possibly say. He's a great teacher to the young guys. If you're ever out of practice and you're watching moving around, it is always, from Jake's standpoint, how can I help this guy? And a lot of guys that are he's helping are guys that probably as a young offensive lineman probably won't play in his time here. And I think it speaks volume of what he is and who he is. But most importantly, it gives you the guy that I think the other players respect, that has been battle tested and has been through it before, and they can kind of lean on him just so like, hey, what is game day like? What's it going to be like when it gets really, really hard? But I can't speak enough of what kind of kid he is, what kind of leader he is. He's phenomenal.
Lots been made about the transition Joel Lanning's made, but it seems like Robbie Garcia, that's pretty intense what he's had to go through too.
Well, that's pretty typical. They'll talk about the quarterback movement. They always talk about the O-line movement. We like it that way. But no, Robbie's a guy that, at some point in the season last year, maybe he wasn't getting the reps that he wanted over on defensive line, and I'm kind of like the guy that's always scouting, see what else is going on over there on the defensive line. And matter of fact, the day that I kind of started asking Coach Rashid a little bit, Coach Campbell walked into my office, was like, hey, what do you think about Robbie Garcia? And I was just excited, knowing nothing about what his skill set is just the way the kid works, and how bad he wants to play for Iowa State, and how much he has put into this program and how much he's put into himself as a player. So it's been really, it's been awesome to have him. Last year he played a little bit, which is really unique. To come over midseason and to go play offensive line that's a hard chore, and a lot of learning really, really fast. And I think he's such an intelligent kid. That's been easy from his end of it. And I think you've seen a great development in what Robbie's been able to do from last year to this year because he spent so much time working on it.
When did that conversation happen? And it sounded like you were the one to, I guess get the ball rolling on it.
Yeah, I know Coach had I was kind of working in the background a little bit, but Coach Campbell was really his idea. I think Coach Campbell always has great foresight of what's going on in the program and, what players can really help you in what positions. I couldn't tell you I think it was almost maybe right after the TCU game, if I remember correctly, right around there. And, I think that was a situation where, you're 2 games, 3 games into the season, and, I think, Robbie saw himself maybe not getting maybe a little bit more limited reps on defense. And so it was kind of one of those times where as you're looking and evaluating what can we do better, who can help us, you see a guy that works really, really hard, that's really tough and really wants to do it. So I think for me, it was like, man, this is awesome. And he's such a good kid. He brings to our offensive room, I think he brings such a steadiness, because he's a lot like Jake. They're really good buddies. But I think he's a lot like Jake in the sense that it is the exact same guy every day. He comes in the room, he's ready to work every day.
Is it nice for you to kind of look around the room and see that you have some really young guys, some freshmen and sophomores, and know, at some point you will get to the point where you have a ton of experience in that room?
Well, yeah, I think we really pride ourselves in working on what's going on in the moment. But with that being said, I think our goal has always been to develop offensive linemen, all positions really. But me personally, I love that process, and I know Coach Campbell does as a former offensive line coach. He's really invested into what it means to develop offensive linemen. So I think when you look in our meeting room and you kind of look and you're talking to the guys and you see the back row of some really big human beings, I think that gets you pretty excited. And they've been able to get some quality reps here throughout camp, and I think we've been very impressed by where they're at, and really how fast they've picked up on the things. So that's hard as well. And a lot of credit goes to Coach Myers, our offensive graduate assistant, because he works a ton with those guys, and he's done a great job.
These first two groups that you've had, have they exceeded expectations given that there was so little experience, or just been on par, or where would you say?
You know, I guess we don't live in the world of what expectations are. You know, I think expectations are the outside influence, and for that group, I think we spend a lot of time preaching on the expectation is only is what your expectation are of yourself and what it is inside that offensive line room. But you know what I can tell you is that they're working extremely hard, and they're straining every day to get better at their craft, because I think for them there's a sense of pride that they really want to do everything they can in their power to help our team win. And when you have that, that's usually a good sign that things are going to go in the right direction for that group.
What have you seen likewise from Oge and Knipfel? Because Oge was, I know, had kind of work into shape last year when he got here later, and then, you know, Josh obviously coming into a program in the summer.
Yeah, Oge's worked really hard to kind of change his body, and I think if you saw Oge now from a year ago, he's done a remarkable job in that sense. And you know, Oge is interesting. He hasn't played a ton of football in his life. You know, a very unique story, but he's worked really, really hard here in the last, probably 10 months or so to develop himself into what he's been able to right now. And he's doing a good job. And you know, Knipfel I think is unique, and obviously getting here not so long ago, he's a very bright kid, so he's been able to pick up on just the X and O standpoint of it. And he's a really tough kid. You're going to get he's going to get it every day. You're going to go as hard as you can every day, and I really appreciate that. And I think that's really accelerated his learning curve. Is just that, you know, he has the ability to kind of block out the difficult things that happen when you play this position and kind of come every day with a purpose.
We're asking a lot about a lot of guys individually, but two more. I know you like versatility and guys that can move all over the place, and Julian and Bryce are guys that can kind of do that too. What have you seen from those specifically? And I guess with Julian kind of playing more primarily center.
Yeah, I think, you know, Julian, I'm very pleased with pretty much everything from Julian, because, you know, Julian obviously playing last year and playing tackle, and, you know, he obviously has the ability to play center. He has a lot of versatility on the field, but Julian, I think, is a guy that has really bought into what we're trying to do as a football program here and changing the culture. And Julian is a great leader. He's tough, very, very intelligent, and really does a great job of helping the offensive line make sure we're doing the right things, make sure we're in the right calls, and just very pleased to see his progress. And you know, Bryce is a guy also that we've had to move around a little bit, and I think sometimes when you an offensive lineman and early on in your career where you have to move around and play different positions, you'll see as early it's kind of hard, and early it may feel like your development is stunted, but I think you see now as Bryce is kind of settling in, you know, you really see his growth, and again, his buy-in value has just been extremely high, and he's really helped himself continue to grow and get better and better.